So fellow of the British Computer Society. I'm also a fellow of the IET, and I'm also a fellow of the Chartered Management Institute. I was at one point a fellow of the CIPD, Chartered Institute for Personnel and Development, where I worked with at least one member of the audience here. I'm a chartered engineer and also a chartered IT professional. I'm not a chartered manager because they only introduced chartered manager just as I was coming to the end of my formal career. And in a way, that's the essence of my talk for you this morning. It's about broad spectrum stuff. It's about, you don't have to choose between, are you a IT scientist or an information security guy or a manager or an HR professional or a whatever. Quite a lot of us need to be quite a lot of these things. It's not either or, it's both and. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So what has the BCS to offer a cybersecurity expert? I'm sort of working on the assumption that anybody who chooses to spend a day at this conference thinks themselves as an information assurance, information security specialist and expert of some sort. However, in the conversation I've just been having with the guys in the front row here, I learned there are some other people with other expertise who come here to broaden their knowledge and understanding, which is good. So what's an expert? I don't know. So let's Google it. You Google it and this is what you find. It's a person who is very knowledgeable about or skillful in a particular area, like an expert in healthcare, it says here, which sounds all right. There's another thing that Google fairly quickly comes up with, which is a quote from Nicholas Murray Butler, who I'd never heard of, I have to say, although I've heard of his quote a number of times. Nicholas Murray Butler was actually also a bit of a polymath. He was a sort of turn of the last century, early 20th century American philosopher who did lots of different things. So he knew quite a bit about stuff, and he doubtless met quite a lot of experts. And this is what he thought about experts. So what's a professional? Now this is a quote from that well-known expert Alan Green. Someone who knows enough about everything that matters and knows some experts, knows when he's getting out of his depth, someone to turn to. And I have to say I built a career on doing that. So the BCS used to be the British Computer Society. It's now, and legally, formally, it still is the British Computer Society, but it's in the process of rebranding itself a bit. So it's now calls itself BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT. So what's a Chartered Institute? This, I think, is a sort of current topic. There's some discussion about should the IISP become a Chartered Institute. Well, a Chartered Institute is a charity. It's something which gets its legal underpinnings, foundations from a charter issued by the Privy Council. And it has to, its objective must be for the public good. If you're not aiming to produce the public good, then you don't get your charter, your Royal Charter. So in particular, it's not a club of us folks, and if we get together we can make the world better for us. It's actually about making IT good for society. That's the mission here. It's not about, if I join, what do I get out of it? It's about, if I join, what good can we do together? It's very different, very different. It sometimes leads to some recruiting problems, because if you get junior people in the industry who they've got their degree and they think that's going to make the world their oyster, and then they discover, no, there's more to it than that. And after a while somebody says, are you a member of the Chartered Institute of whatever? and they say, I don't know, how much does it cost and what do I get out of it? And that's the wrong question at that level, because it's actually, how much does it cost and what can we do together if I'm part of this wider community? And then, if you're junior enough or mercenary enough, you say, well, that's not enough, that's not about me, so I'm not having any of it. And you turn your back and you walk away. Many times you can catch those guys a bit later in their careers when their horizons have broadened a bit and they become a bit wiser to how complicated the world is, and they're less thinking about me, me, me. The other thing we might mention here is IT. I've been a member of the BCS for 40 years. Throughout all of that period, there has been an argument about what we ought to call ourselves. One of the objections to the British Computer Society is that most of it's not actually about computers at all. It's about networks and it's about all those other technologies. And then you get another argument that says it's not about the technologies at all, it's actually about what you can do with the technology, it's about the information systems that you can deliver. And then eventually you realise that the information systems themselves are not the end goal. The end game is actually doing stuff for the world, for your clients or for the wider public. So in the BCS, we decided to stop having these pointless discussions about what our name is, and the pointless discussions about, is this about technology, or is it about the information, or is it about the systems, or is it about the benefit? Because it doesn't lead you anywhere. And as far as the BCS is concerned, IT is to be construed very broadly, and it includes actually everything that's covered by our skills framework. That's the pat answer to the question. So, Chartered Institute then, as well as providing member services like learning and development or networks or whatever, it also supports professionalisation. It supports standards, it supports ways of ensuring professional behaviour, code of conduct, those sorts of things. It includes the learned society aspects, the Academy of Computing, working with professors of computing about what is the content of this body of knowledge. So you're progressing those. And there's another one. Oh yes, public affairs. So there's all sorts of stuff that the BCS does, engaging with government. Think about data protection legislation, which is a topic that is akin to computer security. The data protection legislation came into effect in the 70s because the BCS decided there was a problem, and the BCS provided the push and engaged with Parliament and with government and drafted the legislation. That's the sort of public engagement things that we're talking about. Trying to explain the value of that to someone who is a recently graduated programmer who wants to know why he should spend £200 a year or whatever it is, £150 a year on joining the society is sometimes a bit of a hard sell. But after a while, he gets it. Indeed, increasingly, she gets it. One of the things we're trying to do in making IT good for society is actually supporting the role of women in IT. There's a women in IT group and so on. And the same is happening in the other professional institutions too. Long way to go. So, it's a broad church, is the bottom line for this. I mentioned the skills framework. BCS helped to develop SOPHIA, the skills framework for the information age. This is another bit of the public good things. SOPHIA started out as a BCS product and has now been transferred into other institutions and into other countries. They're now working with the European Union to produce a Europe-wide standard framework for information skills. It works at 7 levels, all the way from beginning level 1 through to level 5, which is Chartered IT Professional, and all the way up to level 7, which is the IT Director, the Chief Information Officer sort of person. It's got 97 skills in it. There are 6 categories of skills, 17 subcategories, down to 97 skills. 5 of those are security specific. So we've got information security, information assurance, security administration, penetration testing, digital forensics. 5 out of 97. The IISP also has a skills framework. It's got 4 levels. The levels are defined on a different basis, actually. They're not directly comparable. You can't easily map one onto the other from the Sophia level. From aware up to expert. But if you compare that with the BCS levels, there isn't anything really that covers the higher levels, level 6, level 7, in the IISP framework. And if you look at the skills, the IISP skills framework has got 25 skills in 9 different skill groups, which are about the technical skills to do with information assurance. It's also got 7 skills in what it calls Group J, business and personal skills, the sort of the broader stuff as opposed to the techie stuff. So from that you can see that the IISP's skills framework is it has got greater granularity in its professional skills, in its techie skills, than the BCS has. But the BCS covers a much broader spectrum of IT, and it also covers a wider range of skill levels. And that sort of enables us to do a compare and contrast between the 2 organisations. They're not in competition, they're complementary. Each has got benefits. So what do BCS members do? How do they spend their time? This comes from a members survey, 2015 data, when we asked people to say, what's their main job role? 2% of members of the BCS, professional members of the BCS, say that security is their main role. 20% say that information security is a part of their role. Now, there are about, 80,000 members of the BCS? So that's about 15,000 people. And of course, some of this 80% around here will also have some security in their role, which makes the point that information security is not something that is done by information security professionals. It's mostly done by information systems professionals with a greater or lesser concentration of skills in the security side of things. Okay? One of the benefits you get from being a member of the BCS is that you can join the professional specialist groups. We've got about 60 specialist groups, and they're all laid out along here. And they cover all sorts of different things. But interestingly, the red one in the middle there is the information security specialist group. So there are 4,500 members of the BCS who are members of the information security specialist group. It's the biggest specialist group we've got. It's also the fastest growing one. But it's not the only one that speaks to the information security domain. We've also got down here, with about 2,000 members, the Information Risk Management and Assurance Group, which is a specialist group for people who are providing assurance. They're worried about the management structures for doing information security rather than the techie stuff of how you actually deliver the information security. And also the quality assurance, the information assurance side. How do you reassure the board of directors that these guys have got their information security under proper control? So it's sort of the police and account and audit side of things, different cast of mind. We've also got a vigorous group here for cybercrime forensics, 1,600 people in that. And we've even got one down at the end here, which is the Young Professionals in Information Security group. And we've got, what is it, about 600 people in there, I think. So trying to encourage the next generation of information security professionals. So the BCS then is not about security, but it's got a significant proportion of its people who are involved in security. Broader spectrum. Another thing that's part of the offering from the BCS is its qualifications and certifications. Starts at the top, Chartered IT Professional. I'm one of those. I don't have a certificate of current competence because I'm too long in the tooth and I gave up doing this stuff professionally some time ago. And this is a mainstream qualification. When you become a Chartered IT Professional, you have to satisfy the BCS on both the breadth and the depth of what you do. So there's a body of knowledge that all those IT professionals are supposed to know about that you get tested on. And then there's an interview and a test with a professional in your specialism to try to make sure that you're up to snuff within your specialism. And if you do that, you get a certificate of current competence that lasts for 5 years, and then 5 years' time, the body of knowledge stuff is assumed still to exist, but you have to reaffirm and reprove that you are still currently capable. You've been keeping up your CPD, you're keeping up with the state of the art, and you're still worthy of those initials there. So that's the broad spectrum stuff for an information security professional. Sorry, information systems professional. We also offer the CESG Certified Professional qualification, one of the three, alongside the APM, Association of Project Managers, and also the consortium that includes the IISP and CREST and Royal Holloway. And we certify about 15% of CESG certified professionals. I've got their certification through the BCS rather than through the specialist arms. We offer a range of certificates and diplomas. We've got 9 of them which are related to information security things, and they are at all the levels of the foundation level, sort of basic awareness and those sorts of things, and then a chunk of them at the practitioner level, and we've got the professional level as well, primarily, of course, the CCP qualification. So you can progress your career through the BCS qualifications. You might want to complement those with the more granular, more specific qualifications that you can get through the, oops, sorry, wrong button, through the CCP scheme and through the IISP. So, the BCS then and the information security professional organisations, I suggest to you, are complementary. They're not in competition. They're addressing different sectors of the market. There's some overlap between them, but that's okay because we're not in competition with each other. We're actually complementing each other. And to be a fully formed, fully rounded professional, you, like I, can join more than one professional institution. So what's the agenda that we've got ahead of us in the cybersecurity business? I think there are two. One is about professionalism. How do we make the information security community more professional, more structured, more dependable, and less winging it on the basis of how smart you feel today. And the other is scale. How do we scale up? Because the world is becoming ever more dependent on information systems, and the range of information vulnerabilities and threats is ever increasing. And if we're going to keep making IT good for society, we're going to need an awful lot more information security professionals, but also people who can look beyond the specifics of information security and into the wider thing of, well, what's the benefit to my client of this information system that I'm trying to protect? And indeed, what's the benefit to society at large? And if you look down those qualifications, we're getting a plethora of qualifications. We need all to be clear about how they relate one to another, how they relate to the individuals who are getting those qualifications, how those are understood by our clients. There's some scope there for mutual recognition of those qualifications and those certifications between the institutions who are involved here. Whole load of stuff about learning and development. We heard about some of that from the IET. And in particular, the importance of CPD, because this is a very fast-moving business and none of us can afford to live on what we learned when we graduated, or even, actually, what we learned 5 years ago. Got to keep moving. And then scale. There's spreading the word internally about within the information systems community. There's evangelizing externally. It's that public affairs stuff about making sure that Parliament, the movers and shakers, that society at large understands the importance of information security, but gets it in proper context. I hate this word cyber, that the newspapers and the media have latched onto as a techie thing. Because actually I don't know what it means. Is it all of information systems, or is it just information security, weaknesses and vulnerabilities and hackers and script kiddies in their bedrooms? And recruit more people to the cause of better information security. Thank you very much.